Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Esther Buchholz. I'm with the New Zealand Recreation Association, and our role here is to champion high quality recreation for all New Zealanders. And we're especially proud in New Zealand of being an active nation and an outdoors nation. But today, I'm delighted to introduce to you Dr. Stefan Kannewischer, who is the President for the International Association for Sport and Leisure Facilities. Dr. Stefan kindly recorded a presentation for us that was aired at the New Zealand Recreation Association National Conference in 2018, and we're pleased to share it with you today. Thank you, Dr. Kannewischer, and enjoy.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stefan Kannewischer. I am IAKS President and Honorary IAKS President. I have a family business. We are consultants, planners and operators for pools in German-speaking Europe. That means Switzerland, Germany and Austria. But I'm speaking to you today as IAKS President, and unfortunately I cannot be with you in Auckland. I'm right now in Zug, Switzerland, where I live and where we have our company. And it is a great pleasure for me to present to you today the IAKS future trends. But before I go into that, I would like to explain to you briefly what IAKS is and what they do. IAKS is the International Association for Sports and Leisure Facilities. It was founded in 1965 in Cologne, in Germany. And it is the only global non-profit organization for sports and leisure facilities. We have about 1,000 members across the world in about 110 countries. And the goal of IAKS is the creation of high quality, functional and sustainable sports facilities all over the world. And we do that by know-how exchange and networking. Our members are architects, we have engineers, consultants, owners, that means municipalities mostly, but also private owners, operators, manufacturers, construction companies, sports federations, sports clubs, etc., and also individuals from the sports and leisure industry that are members in our association. But we have no economical goals. It is purely about meeting and exchanging know-how on a national level, but also on an international level. And IAKS has developed 2 years ago IAKS Future Trends, and they are still, we have published them last year at the FSB conference and in Cologne. They are still valid, but of course trends develop and they don't have, it doesn't mean that they are 100% covering everything, and of course not everything is to the same extent true in each country in the world, but these are general tendencies that we identified. And you don't really have to note it down because they can be downloaded on our homepage, iaks.org, where you probably also want to inform a bit about our organization. One first trend is that because of the blurring boundaries between work and leisure, individual sports have an increasing demand. That means cycling, running, swimming, and of course especially cycling and running take normally place on the public grounds, and therefore and also other sports, individual sports take place on open space. And so public space becomes more and more a leisure facility and has to be multifunctional and cover that. Secondly, one of the root causes of many diseases that we are facing now in our health system, the root cause is very often overweight, and people in general are not moving enough. And of course, it is difficult if you have a 45-year-old person who has overweight and didn't do any sports for 20 years, probably has been sportive as a young person, to get this person back into activity. And you don't get this person straight into a sports hall, playing handball with 20 other people. You have to get this person slowly back into activity. And so infrastructure has to cover that. In this picture, you see a sports hall from Denmark. It doesn't look and feel like a sports hall. And one of the problems is also today that also kids do not move enough, and they have probably also overweight, some of them, or quite a significant and increasing number has. So we have to get also the kids slowly into movement. And in this picture, you see kids, they think they're playing, but in fact they're doing sports, but it doesn't feel really like competitive, sportive activity. Another trend is that accessibility has been in former times very much about wheelchair users in facilities, sports facilities, but this has actually expanded because of aging society. The demographic change means that elder people have also special needs in sports facilities regarding lights, regarding signage, regarding loudspeakers, and of course to have no steps is not only good for wheelchair users, but also good for elderly people. Furthermore, with the aging society, we see also new sports coming along. And with the individualization of our society, we see many new trend sports coming along, and of course we cannot give every sport its own facility. So facilities have to become more multifunctional to cover more different sports and each individual way of practicing sports. As municipalities in most countries have constraints on their budgets, and budgets are becoming more and more tight, they have problems to, one, finance the deficits that sports facilities often create, and secondly, to finance the reinvestment in the facilities, because most of the, or a lot of the facilities have high reinvestment needs. They are 20 years old and need to be renovated. So we have here, and very often, of course, municipalities tend to change only when they have an economic challenge. We have recently had an IAKS International Swimming Pool Conference in Newcastle in the UK, and it was very interesting when the mayor there explained to us that in former times they had all the facilities separated in different facilities, single-purpose facilities, and then they put it all together in a multifunctional facility, community center, where the library and the swimming pool, fitness club, sports hall have all been together, and they were able to reduce their deficit by 85%, their annual operative deficit. So very often the economic challenge makes people change and leads to innovation and new ways of thinking. and I think that's really necessary in our days. We see a commercialization of spectator sports, and that leads to single-purpose spectator facilities that are very often built by private investors. And you can see here a football stadium. In former times, you would have had around this an athletic track, which it hasn't today, so that the spectators are closer to the soccer pitch. And so you have on the one hand side the very commercial, private investor driven, money driven spectator sports. You have secondly a commercial sports sector, all the fitness centers, and that leaves the municipalities with the third segment, with the unprofitable, not commercial sports and sports facilities. And of course, those create high deficits, and it is more and more difficult for the municipalities to cross-finance between the commercial, profitable segments with the non-commercial segments of sports facilities. Urban and suburban sports and leisure facilities with the growing urbanization, creating larger cities, and space becomes a very scarce resource, and there is less open space available for sports facilities. And of course, when you see in metropolitan areas how the land prices have increased, of course it would be crazy to sacrifice a huge space for 10 soccer pitches. It would be by far too expensive. So it is very difficult to have the open space for sports facilities. So very often we have to start new thinking, either in different sizes or to build facilities on top of other facilities, or to stack several sports facilities on each other. And that's a trend that we see quite strongly. And also, apart from that, the open space, as I said already before, becomes multifunctional. A park is not only to sit on a bench, a park is also a sports facility. It is also sort of a community center, a leisure area where people meet. And here you can see a very successful example from Copenhagen. That's called Superkillen, and it's an area. It was a rundown area where they wanted to create a new open space and integrated all the nationalities living in this area, and they were able to bring in things from their countries, a typical park bench or a grill or chess tables or the bus stop or a special type of game that they play in their country. And therefore they took ownership for this park and this area, and that has become really a meeting point. And they had almost no vandalism because the people said, it is our park. We are not making any damage to it. And secondly, in the suburban areas, the sports and leisure facilities have a different purpose. It's a community center where people meet, where you make people meet, and it's important to function that those are not only sleeping towns where people sleep and go to work to the town center, but a place where people meet in sports and leisure, multifunctional sports and leisure facilities. Safety is becoming more and more important. We see new levels of vandalism, hooliganism, even terrorism has been an issue recently. So Safety is becoming more important, video surveillance, safety teams, entrance systems, entrance controls, etc. But also on the construction side, operators are made more and more liable for any problems that occur to users of the facilities. So you have to have also safe construction materials and make sure that you have no traps or problems in your facility that could cause any problems. Climate change is, of course, a big issue. Sustainability is a field that has been long around now. But more and more we see also the climate change in a sense that not only environmental protection, but also that we need protection from sun or in some areas from rain. And it can also be a problem, the air pollution in some areas, so that you rather move inside. Here you can see a street Mecca, which is in several locations, and they sort of moved the street sports inside, not only for rain protection in this country, but also to have a safe area where the kids are not confronted with drugs or anything else. So a very interesting concept. Then, of course, digitalization of our society is important, is gaining more importance. Sorry about that. Of course, we have to have good homepages. We have that since long time. All of us, I think, you have to be available before, during, and after. The Wi-Fi is important. But we see also new things coming along, like new entrance systems, entrance control systems, cashier systems could be coming up. In the Swiss train, you can they're starting now to introduce something that your mobile phone realizes when you're on the train, and when you get off, and you pay only while your mobile phone is on the train. So make sure your mobile phone doesn't travel without you. And probably things like this would also come up with in sports facilities. But we see also virtual reality. There has been a first water slide with virtual reality installed in Germany. And what is very important or gaining importance is tracking. Even hobby sports people want to track what is their success, how are they improving, how are they getting on. So this is also gaining importance in sports facilities. And then we see an international harmonization of demand. As people are traveling more and more, of course, the internet, also migration leads to an harmonization of demand. We see that in the high streets, where you see the same shops almost in every town, which is a bit boring. But that's the way it is, and we see something similar happening also for sports and leisure facilities. People are traveling, see a certain standard, or say, why don't we have that in our country? But also on the supplier side, that some companies work internationally, especially in the fitness area, where you have then trends spreading quite quickly all over the world. So these have been the trends that I wanted to present to you. I hope you found that interesting and gave you some insight and inspiration. It would be a great pleasure for us and for me personally to see you in Cologne in 2019. Every second year, the Cologne Messe has the FSB trade show, which has about 600 exhibitors from 45 countries with 25,000 visitors. So it's the world's leading trade show for sports and leisure facilities. During that time, IAKS is supporting that trade show, and we have sort of our biannual World Congress at this time, and it is next year from 5th to 8th November 2019. So you may want to note this date in your diary. There will be a Australian delegation that is coming. Probably we are able to set up something together with New Zealand, or there will be probably even a separate New Zealand delegation. We will try to set up also a study tour around Germany to add some value if you take a long trip from New Zealand to Germany, which would be a very great pleasure to me. I wish you an excellent conference and hope to see you sometimes in person. If you have any questions for my presentation, please do not hesitate to contact me through iaks.org. Many thanks and have a good day.